No, you use this one.
It's not a very nice thing to say, John.
I'm just wondering if we can get him a bit more high res by shutting.
Oh, Johnny, wait!
What?
A live brush there that you now stepped
Okay.
on. It's going everywhere.
That's another tiny new situation.
A live brush, do you say?
So just shut down your
Hold on.
this down because so that we aren't using too much of the bandwidth. Cool. All right. Cool. Talk to you later. Yeah. Let's talk later on after you've done your thing too. Great.
You're stepping on it and putting it everywhere. Here.
So it's a bit of realism.
No, look there. And it's on your face and it's now everywhere.
And there I was thinking, Johnny, that now you'd had one run through, that God, you'd be so super efficient at this now. It'll run like clockwork.
Thank you.
Pick up
I'm
the
just going
brush.
to sit and not move.
There's a lot of paint.
Not
Do
move.
you want to take off that sock?
Lucky no one's watching
Are you
yet.
using socks now instead of brushes, John? Are you using socks instead of brushes?
Well, you might as well start then, yes.
Wait, I can't see. Where is it? Because it's going brilliantly. Where are you?
Okay, Dexter looks
Am I
good.
here, John?
Dexter looks good. Yeah, I think.
Okay, I'm gonna start.
I think ideally we take down that
It's not
yellow light a
streaming.
tiny bit more. It's not streaming.
Well, I haven't got you. Oh, now I have. Oh, no.
Which yellow light are you talking about?
I mean,
This
there's
one
just,
here, John?
yeah, exactly. Was it take it down a fraction more?
Dahlia, can you just move that sun lamp? That one there. No, just tilt it away. Tilt it down. How's that, John? John, you have to look at me to know. Are you looking? I don't know.
Phone down and get that again.
Is that John?
Yeah.
I don't know if you can
That's
even
good.
hear
Yeah,
me.
that's good.
Good. Okay, that's good. That's great. Thank you, Dahlia.
Cool.
Right, okay.
Okay, everyone good. Are we live?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Hi guys, don't worry. Yeah, it's always scripted. Welcome back.
Did you say, are we alive?
Are we live? Yes.
That's the first.
It's hard to tell these days, isn't it?
It is.
I'm checking myself for symptoms on an hourly basis. So
That's what you call it.
we have.
Sorry.
That's not for us. That's not a thermometer.
PM,
Yes, that's not enough. Sorry. I thought we were just having a private
Yeah.
conversation.
Don't worry. We haven't. No one's tuning in yet. Okay. So we are. Yes, it's going live. Good. Hi. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Day 2, day 12 in the Big Brother house, and we're all. No one's murdered anyone yet, at least here. I hope you guys are doing right too. We have the screen legend, Dexter Fletcher here, and he's in pretty much the same, not far off the same outfit as the other day, and certainly he hasn't had a haircut, which is always good.
No, my hair does become atmospherically dependent. I think the weather's slightly different today, so it will behave slightly more uncontrollably. But otherwise,
Every day's a good hair day, right?
Every day's a good hair day. I'm very blessed. Yes, apparently.
Yeah, I've slightly forgotten what that's like. Okay, well, I think we'll get started.
Can you go over colours again? Because a lot of people are interested.
Okay, yeah. I think Isolation Art's going to post a little kind of clip where I was just preparing a background like this one. We'll try and do a bit more of that in the next few days, and I'll show you a bit more. I think as we go along about maybe kind of focusing on exactly what I'm doing. Hopefully there's a little sort of pop-up window if you're looking at the website, which will be a close-up of the canvas. We've got Yaz Station behind me with Instagram, so let's see how it goes. Colours are a bit. Again, I've just done 4 colours, and a really clean palette because we started it this week. But very unlike the one in my actual studio, but here in the garage, it's all a bit cleaner. I mean, you could use any variation of this. I mean, basically blue, red and yellow is what mix most things. You can sometimes add in a brown. I haven't done that. But I'm using 2 blues, ultramarine and Prussian blue, just because they give very, very different sort of temperatures and do different things when they're mixed. And then, yeah, we'll see how we get on. But the sharp-eyed amongst you may notice I haven't done much to it since the last session, because I haven't. But hey, you know, that way we get to see the whole progress of the picture, which I think is okay. It could go any way from here. I think it seemed cheating a bit to sort of like, you know, do it calmly and quietly on my own time. So off we go.
Is it going to be a flattering portrait, John, or is it going to be a true to life portrait?
Are you expecting it not to be both?
I was hoping you'd have an element of both. Yes, I mean.
I don't know. You don't
I was
really know.
hoping it's going to be a waltz and all portrait. Will I have my headphones in, for example?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, let's see. I mean, you know what I'm like. I tend to sort of leave quite a lot out.
Yes.
Which you know, is obviously only partly because I'm lazy. We'll see what stays in, really. But it's one of those things. I think when you're doing these things, I think when you start putting props in, there's got to be a good reason for it. Obviously, if they were there, that is one reason for doing it. But I think when you're trying to sort of tell a bit of a story, I think there's nothing worse than a sort of laboured, you know, kind of detail, which is, you know, well, firstly it can distract you, but it must be a bit like when you're cutting to something, you know, when you're editing a film, you know, you choose to sort of like cut away to something. It can be very distracting if you know. Therefore, there's got to be a good point to it. If you do it briefly, then maybe it doesn't break up the action too much. And the same with this. I think you want the concentration, you know, the focus to be on the face, and particularly the sort of eyes and the mouth, which are what gives the, you know, a lot of the story about, you know, the mood and the personality. And then, you know, I think sorry, I'm trying to think about what I'm mixing as well.
You do that. Concentrate on that.
So yeah, but basically, I think, knowing what to leave out, and like knowing when to stop, which I always thought might be the title of my autobiography.
Yep, that's a good title. I suppose if you were trying to make a point about here we are in isolation art school, and the only way we can communicate now is through FaceTime and with headphones, and it's a portrait of a moment in a moment, then maybe that would be
exactly
slightly relevant, but I can't imagine, you know.
Well, I think that's exactly it, and I think
being absolutely crucial to the storytelling.
No, you're 100% right, and I think that's a good reason to have little things in there, like your kind of spam on the table next to you and the sort of survival kit. But
yeah, I should be wearing this then, John. Maybe this would help.
Yeah, exactly.
Does this help?
Yeah,
John.
Then you make my job get done a bit quicker that way.
You're good at drapery. You're good at cloth. Yeah, well, I'll take one of these out then anyway.
So I think it's good feedback from the last session.
There was
obviously complaining didn't get so much done.
I've seen a couple of portraits that people have done as a result of it. It seems to be these
good.
of beautiful hand-drawn portraits popping up all over the place of me from varying stages of my roller coaster of a career.
Great,
which is rather fun.
Oh, so they've looked at pictures that you from snaps from other stages in your career, not necessarily from
there. Seem to have. From a film I did years ago. From stuff I've done. Yeah, many years ago. So that's rather nice, as well as versions of what we were doing here the other night as well. Yeah. People have kind of been working alongside, you know, I suppose as a comparison or some sort of guideline, or I'm not quite sure how people are using it, but it is nice. Yeah, I mean, you know, who doesn't love having people take time to actually do a hand drawn or painted picture of them? It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, and they're rather good as well.
Oh, that's good. Oh, we should show some of them in that case. We'll figure out a good way of doing that. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how people are sending them in. If they send any to you directly, then pass them on. Otherwise,
they're on social media, aren't they?
Oh, of course. So in that case, we need a hashtag that doesn't confuse it with other things. So really, if it's Dexter Fletcher, there'll obviously be millions of pictures of you. But if it's Dexter Fletcher portrait or Dexter Fletcher live or nude, obviously that's going to narrow it down a bit. But yeah, when I first heard you were doing the Freddie Mercury film, I searched Dexter Fletcher and put a Q in, and it filled in Queen for me, which
did it? Remarkably quickly.
Yeah, remarkably quickly.
Yeah, curious. That's very curious, John.
Very curious.
I can't imagine why I would have done that. That's okay. I'll have to have a little research around myself.
Those algorithms, eh?
Exactly. I'm not answerable for that, John. That's a quirk of the internet. I'm sure nothing such thing would happen with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence isn't that good yet.
I don't know. I saw. Yeah, I think it was on Twitter that I saw it.
Yeah.
Someone had posted something. There was a couple. Maybe I suppose if I answer them or give some sort of like, maybe we can send Yaz your technical Instagram.
Yeah, it's gonna have to be Yaz or Ruben, one of our sort of people who know a bit more about it than we do.
Yeah, but Yaz likes me, so that's all right. That's at least it won't be too painful for her, and she can definitely get a laugh out of some of them as well. Will you do that, Yaz? Will you go and take a look?
Yeah, sure.
There you go. That was easy. I don't get a chance. I suppose I should sign on and see, and I could have a look that way, couldn't I? Again.
Yeah.
What you're doing. Yeah, that works out well, didn't it? That works out really well. That was really odd, though, being able to see, because I remember when you did the Watch Live, the portrait before all those years ago, that there was no way of me seeing it until you deigned to show me. Oh, there you are. Oh, and you've got the portrait in the corner now as well. It means that I get distracted very easily now, John. You seem to have you got me on a tablet there or something?
Yeah, it's a bit neater. And only took 6 hours of figuring out how to do it.
I'm less inclined to move now. Is my head tilted the right way?
Yeah, I think it's about right. Yeah, that's good. Because it was definitely I think that's about right. It's good.
I was doing some of that, wasn't I?
Oh.
That's an annoying new noise.
What are people saying? Shut up! Stop talking. Let him get on with it. Let him tell us what he's doing.
Well, actually, it's a hashtag suggestion from Isolation Art School, which is hashtag Dexter Fletcher portrait.
That's good.
Hello.
Oh, you might want to turn that down.
Dexter Fletcher portrait.
There's a button there, yes. The volume just above.
I don't need the info on it though. Well, they've raised the money for it, haven't they?
Sound off.
They have. Where is that?
Yeah.
I know that, darling. Yeah, Alice. Yeah, for yes,
Back to me.
The crowdfunding campaign for Derek Jarman, Prospect Cottage. They hit their target, which Johnny's got a lovely glass of red wine again.
Yeah.
No, we've been trying to raise the money to buy
that's
Derek
fantastic.
Jarman's cottage, but they hit their target, which they did. It went through this crowdfunding, which is extraordinary.
That's brilliant.
Wonderful. Yeah, it is great. I've never been personally, much to my shame. But have you ever been, John?
No, I haven't. And I haven't crowdfunded for anything either, but there seems to be quite a good way of getting some beer money in.
It seems like the worst thing could be is crowdfunding or crowding for anything.
Maybe you could crowdfund for a decent bottle of wine for you next time. I'm sure.
That's good. Does everyone want to chip in?
Can we get Bono and Geldof on the phone to help out with that a bit?
It has to be an extraordinarily good bottle of wine, John. I don't know what
I think they both drink quite nicely.
Do they drink good wine? Do they?
So.
Are they oppos of yours? Are they?
I mean, not especially. No, just but
I could open my big cupboard behind me and try and pull out a bottle of something. Could be fun.
How did your Lithuanian fundraising thing go? Did you save the orphans?
It was. What is it? I don't know. We were raising money for what was it, for personal protection gear, Dahlia? That money for the health service for Lithuania.
Dahlia, can you go and stand up over this way a bit? So you look.
For masks as personal protection.
Oh, good.
Yeah, personal protection. Yeah. They raised over 120 grand or something. 128,000 euros.
Brilliant.
Which, in 3 hours. Well, we weren't on it for 3 hours, but we did our bit and appeared.
Fantastic.
It wasn't as hard as this is, John.
No. Well, I mean,
I have to sit still and be reasonably interested about art.
I think you're managing to do both this time, actually. How the people? So I think as you can see at home, I am just sort of slightly twatting around still, putting down some random marks. But I think where it gets to a point when there's enough of them there that you can start pushing them around and moving them together, and that's when it sort of gets a little bit more fun. But we'll see. So all these reflections on his glass. I never know what to do with reflections on glasses.
Yeah,
Whether to leave them in or not.
I realise that
No,
they're
no,
a
no,
complete
no,
pain.
no.
I mean, we in the film we have to we have them digitally removed. When they get really bad, you have to spend a small fortune.
Yeah.
How does that help?
Well, I mean, it's an interesting comparison. I mean, I think obviously, this is a very analog way of sort of adding and removing things. I can just paint them out, but there's something I've always liked glasses actually in pictures. But people often, I remember in the early days would sort of sit and then go, oh, actually, can I not have my glasses on? And it's a shame in a way. Firstly, if people normally wear glasses, they, that recognisably who they are. But also, glasses are interesting and they give a bit of architecture on the face and the way that they slightly refract and reflect light, which also helps break things up a bit. And because what you're looking is for ways of not making it too photographic. Really, I think that's one of those things, and they help that. Sometimes you do it stylistically by breaking up the sort of the areas of paint with sort of obvious brush strokes or in other ways, but also things like that, which just help it not be just a sort of big flat areas of sort of softly blended colours. Nice.
Yeah, because I mean that's a nightmare for you. Look, you can just see the screens in my eyes. That's good. I should just do screens in my eyes. Look, it just goes on forever. It's you painting me endlessly. That's what's being reflected in my lenses at the moment.
So how's isolation? How was this week for you, honey? Oh yeah.
It's all right. It's okay. I mean, like I said to you before the other day, a lot of my work can be fairly isolated, sitting inside and looking at things and reading. And I find myself watching an awful lot of television. Dahlia's very good. She reads a lot, but I don't at the moment. But there is work stuff that there's a new draft of a script which has just come in freshly yesterday. So that's had a couple of reads. That's all very exciting. But of course, work needs to be done on that. Notes.
Yeah.
Ideas, and of course we're still trying to pull together all the people, the heads of department, designers and makeup artists, and location books. And, we're just trying to carry on like it's normally happening. I mean, we obviously don't know, but isolation kind of tends to make you. I did actually go out for a run today around the empty streets of London, over towards St Paul's and over the bridge along the Thames. Yeah. Tempted to go and do a bit of mudlarking like I did when I was a kid down on the riverbank, which was
in London.
Which is always fun.
Whereabouts?
I ran over Blackfriars. Well, I say I ran. It was more of a hurried walk. Because I haven't done any sport for a while.
I was thinking about mudlarking when you were a kid. Where did you do that? Because I mean, some places you can still get down to the river.
I know. It was a job that I did when I was a kid. Like most of my childhood was taken up with working.
Being sent out to work.
Sent out to work. Get out to work. My little money makers. That's what Mum used to call us. Yeah,
we could do a bit more around here.
Everything all right? So I can hear Chiba making disapproving
noises.
No,
I think she was making notes about things that maybe we could emulate a bit of that in this household.
What? Get the kids out working?
Yeah, Dexter, get them a job.
Yeah. Does Yaz want to be in a film?
Yeah, I'll do that.
You'll do that.
She'll do that, but not a boring job, apparently.
Yes, that's a pretty good offer, actually.
Well, jobs are boring. Occupations, or yes, what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, is your dad's job boring?
It's only boring when I talk about it.
When?
There's rare occasions.
If you talk about it.
So tell me about. You can't talk about your new film yet, presumably. So that's not off.
Well, I'm giving away as much as I can without giving anything away.
Fine. We'll hope to hear more about that in due course.
been sort of vaguely intimated at in the trades, but it's an old 1960s TV series reboot. Is what I'm hoping to get going.
Blue Peter.
Blue Peter the movie, exactly. Wurzel Gummidge the movie.
Now surely that should be a movie.
I did want to do a Cat Weasel movie. Do you remember Cat Weasel?
I do.
I can tell by your face that you don't.
Well, I remember the name of it. I don't think it was one of the ones I saw. It was quite synchronous with my childhood. What sort of age were you when you watched that?
I suppose I would have been sort of 5, 6, something like that.
Yeah.
He was basically Merlin that had been transported forward in time from King Arthur's day to the 70s England, 1970s England.
Great.
And all the modern wonders of the world amazed him. You know, fire in a bottle was a light bulb and all this sort of stuff. But essentially, he was Merlin, as I understood it as a kid. Anyway, I think he was meant to be Merlin who'd been transported through time, and here he was in rural England in the 70s. Being freaked out by everything, living in a water tower, from what I remember. Anyway, but no, this is not that. It's a bit more high tech than that. But I can't go into too much detail, John. I mean, God knows how many people are watching this.
Exactly. In the highest places, the highest echelons of Hollywood.
Exactly, all your media friends, go crazy. How are you handling lockdown? How's the family there? You're getting to know your family. That must be quite unusual.
Yeah, exactly. We had to be formally introduced, obviously, and that's great. There's been a huge amount of homework going on with the girls. Yeah, and it's all fine. I mean, I think it's sort of like got a bit tougher this week because the weather's been so miserable. But I think we're very lucky. We got a garden,
of course,
and it's just such a strange time. Is this sense, that the time's stopped, and it's like, we have to keep checking what day it is, and everything's so quiet, and it's kind of this weird sort of limbo we're all in, and we just got this weird, strange sense that, there's partly because everyone's having to go through the same thing. It sort of it doesn't matter too much, but there's also the horrors of what's going on in hospitals and elsewhere, and around the world where it's clearly going to get worse as well.
Yeah.
I
know. I think it's we're into that funny phase. The first week was like, oh, this is all quite novel, and here we are. We can't go out, and actually, let's sit on the sofa and watch TV, and isn't that fun?
Yeah.
It's not fun, but it kind of like it's hardly a hardship. I suppose when those numbers keep creeping up as they're predicted to do, and that the impact of that becomes, realer and realer. That people that are affected by it, and in a very real way, then of course that sort of makes you realise it's not fun. We are trying to do something really serious by keeping ourselves inside and protect each other as well as ourselves. It's that is. I know it's sort of not the highs and lows, but it is those nights where you go, oh my God, this is absolutely awful. But we can't dwell on that, John. We have to do isolation art school and say, look, paint a picture of me. I look great. Are you bandanaing me? That's good. I'm very. It's my Japanese bandana. Don't look like this.
Yeah. Is it Japanese?
Yes.
As in it's from Japan, or is this a style of bandana?
It's from Japan. It's indigo. It's got some indigo dye in it.
Nice.
Yeah, it's from a lovely company called 45 RPM. Which I like very much. There you go. Maybe now I've got it out on the World Wide Web, John, they'll throw product at me.
Yeah, well, their business is bound to go through the roof now, I imagine.
They're looking for.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just imagine all your viewers.
You can't buy advertising like this, right?
You can't. After they've painted a picture of me, they'll all be running out
You
to
literally
buy a
can't, by the way.
bandana. Well, they can't. They can buy them online.
Yeah, but only because we haven't set it up on Google. I'm sure we could if we needed to.
I'm sure our computers are one step ahead of us and will be throwing adverts at us.
Yeah.
That will encourage us to buy.
Over here?
Oh, what?
Yeah, I know, yeah, that's it.
Dear Will,
Were you just doing
our
an
mate
important
Will,
bit?
Yeah.
is asking, love how quickly you capture the essence of personality of the subject. Is there a trick or something you look for first, i.e. the eyes?
Yes, I mean the eyes are sort of are very important to the whole thing. I mean, the trick is basically I just keep having a crack at it until it seems to go right. That's the nice thing about painting. Yeah, if you're taking a photo, you need it to be the right one first time. But with this, yeah, you've got this sort of luxury that if you, when you get a bit right, you can just leave that and move on to something else. But it also, it's sort of changing as a painting, and you can see I'm still putting down these fairly clumsy blocks of dabs of colour, which then are something to work against in the as it sort of moves on to the next little phase. Can you move your head slightly? Yes, that's
That way, there.
yeah, that's great.
Do my hair now, John. My hair looks amazing. That's it. My hair looks good.
Yeah.
Get to it now. Do it all now, quickly.
Actually, it's pretty good. You should do a screenshot. Okay, let's have a look at the hair. Let's have a look at the hair. So, I'm not very good at hair actually. So if anyone out there is good at it and wants to give me some tips, it's always been something I often leave it till last. I always think of it as being the easiest bit, and then I leave it till last, and then it's sort of I kind of quite often overdo it or do it. Yeah, it's a slightly different way you're painting the rest of the thing.
I'll wear a hat for the next session. That would just take
that would be helpful actually. Yeah, hat and face mask and everything. We can get these done in half the time actually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So are people painting along with it, or I don't know? I suppose I don't know, paint along with it, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think some people. I think some people are. Yeah, and I think it's sort of part of the idea is to be. I mean, they don't necessarily need to be doing you. They can be doing anything, but to be working alongside, and then they might want to try some of the things that I'm doing, or they might want to ignore me. But if you were painting last time and you picked it up again, the painting may have dried a bit. Mine's dried a little bit because I added a bit of clover oil to the mixture. It's still okay, and actually it's so okay. I might have added too much clover oil. The danger with that is it's so funny it never dries.
Which you warned against, I remember.
I did warn against. Yeah, I didn't take my own advice.
Typical. You know that your screenshot of the painting's gone down, do you?
Oh, I didn't know that. I'm fixing that.
What are your technical team doing? What's Yaz doing? She's there
No, I'm doing the Instagram.
building a cheese sandwich or something, no doubt.
Hold on, close-up shot. Yeah.
Now we can see.
You like Wolverine with those paintbrushes in your hair.
Huh? God. It's all going wrong.
Looks like Wolverine.
It may be on some sort of timer thing. I don't know.
Yeah, can just shut off the root thing.
Some little symbols came up on it and then it simply disappeared.
Don't put it on me, Johnny.
Yeah, it's really high tech all this. Okay, see if that works. Is it helpful? Is it helpful having it there though? I mean, I assume that maybe it's like something that's sort of vaguely focused on the picture, but if it's not, I think I can zoom a bit more. Otherwise, it's a bit pointless. Let's go right in. How's that?
Oh, look at that. This looks good.
Okay.
Is that up to your directing, Dexter?
Oh yeah, I'm not getting involved. I'm just letting
Wow,
you do
that bad, is it?
Yeah, it's that bad. I just
Take your
can't
name off
believe
One
what
movie
I'm
you're not
seeing.
going to save.
Yeah, it's like this is just a debacle. I mean, what is going on? Thank God Sheba's there is the only thing I can say.
No.
Yeah.
Always.
Exactly. I'm getting distracted by
Yeah. What are you looking
things
at?
on the internet. Sorry, I'm looking at you, John. Paint me. I'm looking at you. Oh, that is a good. I like that actually, John. He's done a good job there. You can stop there.
Why don't you put the phone in front of your screen, or so that it doesn't matter if you're looking at whatever nonsense?
Well, because then I'm at a different angle, aren't I? Then I'm.
Oh yeah,
still
that's also
want
good.
me
Well,
at
can you why don't you move the screen to where the phone was then?
Try to emulate. That doesn't work.
I feel like it can't be. It's not.
You're
not
directing me
rocket
now,
science.
John.
Yeah.
we've managed to make it much more complicated than it ever was. Is it very annoying when I keep looking away? Darla's telling me off.
Sorry.
Now I've completely buggered it. Is that like that?
That's fine.
I'll move the computer there. So
I've got music coming from a teenager's room. I might have to just turn it down.
Yeah, and if she's streaming lots of stuff, maybe she should turn that off as well. It might be why Dexter's a bit grainy.
Darla's asking what inspires you, Johnny.
It's a good question. I mean, I think
little question.
So, I mean, as I think we covered a bit last time, but I didn't study art properly. I used to go and look at other artists' work in the galleries and then try and copy it. And it's still the case that I'll sometimes see something that someone else has done and think, well, that's cool. How do they do that? And have a go at that. And sometimes not even consciously. Sometimes you just see something and then a few months later you notice you've done something similar or a bit of it's crept into your work for a while. It's unusual for new things to sort of like stay, you're endlessly sort of tweaking what you're doing, and suddenly you go through little phases of handling certain things slightly differently. But so that's in terms of that. Just
but when you set out on a project like your Blue period, let's go way back then, and you kind of like, okay, this is a kind of whole theme and a whole idea.
Oh right, yeah, the collages.
Collages that you kind of conceived of this whole idea of, and then you have an idea in your mind's eye what the themes and subjects of it are and what it's going to be about, but then do you go? I mean, like for a film, for example, I go and start watching as many films that I feel that I want to stylistically dive into or tonally, or steal from. I'm quite brazen about that. I don't make it seems perfectly reasonable now after 100 or so years of film, and there's even a longer history of art, that you dive into what's gone before and you.
Yeah. Well, that's a very good point. I mean, so that was, you're right that it's sort of, if you do that in art, it tends to work best if there's a good reason for doing it. Otherwise, it's a bit of a minefield. I think, but therefore, yes. So that series, people don't know it, is when I made a lot of pictures based on collage, partly because that's sort of the style of the paintings I've always done is a bit collagey, but also because and I was using, I ended up using mostly porn mags because it was like all skin tones, and I was doing mostly faces and bodies, but also it was funny. And it kind of or at least it would provoke a reaction, and sometimes people would find it funny, and some people would find it uncomfortable, and sometimes people would find it actually interesting in other ways. It was definitely it made it more interesting, but it also meant that then the sort of you could reference things in the images you're making. It was kind of a different thing. I wasn't trying to do portraits like this, partly because it was really sort of slow and complex to make them. So I was taking sort of well-known figures or works from history and that kind of thing. So I think. So yes, from that point of view, it sort of was a good reason to reference other people's work. Otherwise, I've tended to be a bit wary of doing it. I mean, is it the same when you're doing a film? I mean, it's kind of like it's a nice sort of throwaway thing to do, but you don't want to necessarily have something overly based on it, or becomes just the work just becomes sort of pastiche-y, I feel.
Yeah, of course you have to be. There's a fine line, certainly. I mean, there's things that you admire or that you love or that you like and you want to be inspired and influenced by, but you've got to have your own voice. You've got to obviously refract that through your own prism and somehow sort of not reinterpret it, but sort of use it to inform and kind of explore the themes that you're looking at, and you might apply them in a completely different way. That's part of it. I mean, it's like we're talking about with your collages. You might take an image that's particularly well known and says something about one thing, but then just the way that you approach it with the collages of the skin tones of porno mags makes it say something completely different and spins it around. And I suppose, of course, it's so hard not to to ignore the things that influence you, the things that you love or you hate or inspire you or challenge you. That's what you want to do, I suppose, in some degree with your audience, isn't it? If it's the person who looks at the painting or watches the film, you want it to challenge and kind of make them think, and I suppose that comes from the stuff that does that to you.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's it. I think certainly I've always found that the best work is stuff you do when you convince yourself you're only doing it for yourself. As soon as you start to do things which you think, well, this from last week, all right. But as soon as you start to do things which you think is because of how it's going to be seen or received, things go wrong. And it's literally it's always the case, but it's very difficult to not be thinking at all about, because obviously we make things to be seen, and so you've got to go through these sort of mental gymnastics to try and fool yourself into thinking this one doesn't matter because you'll do it better, when actually, of course, you know full well that it will be great if it does work, because you need to get some pictures for that exhibition or whatever it is.
No, it's a really good point. It is, because it immediately becomes compromise. You're trying to second guess it. I mean, the first time I start to feel that is when you sit down and you screen the film for an audience the first time in some sort of test. I mean, I suppose it's the same for you when you let people wander in and have a reaction to something that they haven't seen before. You suddenly start trying to see it through their eyes. But part of the great joy of it is just, like you say, doing it for yourself. But it takes an enormous amount of courage and self-confidence and self-reliance to not, let other opinions creep in before.
Yeah. Well, it's I guess it must be because I mean it's a funny thing. I mean, having seen you obviously quite a lot when you were doing Rocket Man, both on sets and a couple of times when you were editing it and that kind of thing. I think maybe it's when you're editing is the most time when you're being the sort of turn away, because you could just do a quick cut of something just to see if it works, or just for yourself, or just for amusement. When obviously when you're making it, you're having to manage such a huge production. I remember Baz saying that he's a general when he's filming, because you've got these many hundreds of people, and you can't just twat around and do something on a whim and see if it works very easily. And so, but I wonder if this. I mean, and is it very different from acting?
Incredible Yeah, sorry, go on.
Well, no, it's going to be interesting because you obviously been in an interesting situation, having been an actor for many years, and then to go and sounding like a proper interview here. But yeah, I think it is an interesting thing. I mean, you've been. I know a few others have done that as well, but not that many have been successful. But on both sides of the camera, is it a very different experience? Is it a very different thought process? I mean, imagine, because obviously when you're an actor, you're sort of thinking about what's going on in the scenes, but you're mostly thinking about what you're doing. Whereas when you're directing, you're having to think about loads of things all at once. And the whole process goes on a lot longer.
You become a lot more responsible for everything that you say, and as an actor, you are allowed a certain amount of freedom in terms of responsibility, because a huge part of the process is so personal and so sort of exposing and and unique to you, but you can be much more isolated. You're in your group of actors, and that's an ensemble kind of feeling that actors will get and understand, and there's various different approaches, but your responsibility is nowhere near as great. Whereas, of course, when you're a director, you say one thing that may be an idea that you're kicking around, and you come back 10 minutes later and 30 people have acted upon that, and everything's completely changed. You say, oh no, hang on a minute, I was just sort of like running through a possible scenario, or you have to take responsibility for the things that you say, because people, as if you're a general, they will go over the top, and that will be it, and 30 people could die, but it could be your responsibility, so there's certainly that marked difference as an actor. What I realise is that you have surprisingly, you have a huge amount of responsibility in one respect, but a lot of other things you don't, and that's really lovely. because you need to be able to have the freedom to be sort of creative and exposed, and the rest of us hide behind the camera. The actor is the one out there who everybody watches and forms an opinion on. Acting's very easy for people to go, well, that's not very good, because everyone's watched lots of telly and movies and seems to have an opinion about it. I suppose.
It's easy to quantify what bit of it they're responsible for, whereas behind the camera, it's a bit not so obvious who's done what. Although I have to say, I thought it was a travesty that Brilliant Julian didn't win awards for the costumes. I don't know how that happened. I mean, I think it just probably wasn't. People weren't aware that all the costumes were original. I think they probably assumed that they were all sort of just borrowed straight from the great man's wardrobe. But
exactly. I mean, and he did go to the great man's wardrobe, and we have some of them hanging up on the rail. But the truth is that Elton was very tiny back in the 70s and 80s anyway. And none of it fitted Taron. Taron's taller and broader shouldered than Elton ever was. And of course, Julian Day made everything from the ground up, and I played this awful trick on him. In the first week, he brought me some designs which were original, and I just decided that I wanted to push everyone further than they'd been before. So I just said no to everything. And no, that's not good enough yet. No, it's not how I imagined it. Go away and try again. So he went off and he looked at me, like he wanted to kill me. But he did. He went off and he came back with that amazing opening suit that you did a painting of. That orange devil angel kind of idea, and that became really, really key to a whole load of things. And he did it on a daily basis, and that film goes through sort of 3 or 4 decades.
Yeah.
And he costumed all of it, and in an original way as well. And he was inspired by Elton, but there's very few replicas actually. If you look at, not unless I was really specific about a particular thing, but even then, when he's dressed like as a chicken, we called it the chicken suit.
Yeah.
It's very different. Or the Dodger Stadium suit is Julian's take on it. It looks really similar, but it's actually it's very different. And it is one of those quirks. There's very good other projects out that year, and that's what people take notice of, or whatever it is. I don't know how you quantify who gets nominated or whatever for those things. It sometimes feels like it's a bit random to me, but I'm sure that the people have their reasoning. But he'll just have to keep trying, won't he?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's better for us if he does a few more.
Exactly. That's all right. We're working together again on this new project.
Oh, nice. Gummidge.
Gummidge.
Codename Gummidge.
The musical. It's exactly.
Who would play Gummidge? I mean, Sean presumably must have considered it at some point.
Sean would be wonderful. That'd be great if he could follow in his father's footsteps. I'm sure he'd love that. You're talking about Sean Purley, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love him. That he'd be good. Yeah, he'd be good. Him or Julia Roberts.
Yeah.
Mel
Gibson.
Gibson. I just want to cast Julia Roberts in everything. I just don't see enough of her.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Gibson pre-rehab probably wouldn't have needed too much makeup. Now look, back to
he watches this Isolation Art School.
Oh, good.
Gibson's a big fan. He's a big fan.
Well, we hope to get him on at some point. And actually, if anyone got any nominations, I think it's going a bit better today. I think it's going to take a few more sessions to get Dexter nailed somehow.
Let me have a look. I'm going to put it back up and have a see how you get on.
Someone's saying please do a minute of this without doing it on camera because they want to watch how it comes along. So I don't do any more not live.
Oh, I see. Okay, good. Yeah. I mean, I'm happy to do that. It just means it's
don't do any more not live.
Yeah. So if I die, I'm afraid there'll be no more painting.
It looks finished to me, John.
I wish everyone was like you.
I wish everyone was like you, John.
But you say actually another thing I was thinking since last time was you've been amused in other ways. So you did Caravaggio, obviously, famously playing
I did. That's what I was saying about Derek's Cottage.
But you didn't you do one of Sam's videos as well? Sam
I
Taylor,
did do Sam. She was
Johnson.
Sam Taylor Wood then. Yeah, Sam Taylor. I did. I met Sam many years ago through an actor friend. Sorry, this way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Amanda Ooms, who was a Swedish actress. I think Swedish, was she Swedish, Dahlia? Swedish actress. Yes, she did a film with Alan Rickman, who was an old mate. Anyway, she said, go and meet my friend at the Bar Italia in Soho. She wants to do this art project. And sure enough, I went and met Sam. And we sat in Bar Italia drinking coffee. And she talked about this crazy idea for an installation piece that she had where she wanted to film 5 different characters in different locations, but somehow connect them through dialogue. And which was a great wacky idea. And anyway, I ended up doing one. My one was I was in it. I'm sorry, I was in a loft apartment somewhere, really flash. Now you'll know the name of the artist who created a mould of his own head with his own blood.
Yeah, Mark Quinn. Is another mate.
It was his apartment, I understand. Because the piece was there, and I was like, wow, that's anyway. We were there, and it was all back in the days of film, and so there was a 10-minute roll of film. It was being shot by a fantastic cinematographer called Seamus McGarvey, and it was all one take. And I had a sneaky little earpiece, and Sam would feed me lines of dialogue that she wanted me to say at any given moment, and I had to just sort of be in this room in my boxer shorts. It wasn't that long after Caravaggio. I was still reasonably trim then.
You still are, honey.
There's a time when I wouldn't mind parading around in my boxer shorts.
I mean, don't let us stop you. If you feel relax your face a bit for the portrait. Then...
I told you, John, I'm wearing nothing from the waist down. That's why I love these sessions. Okay,
so we need to make sure that the iPhone's secure and doesn't fall off the table.
Nothing but
trying to keep our PG rating, not get kicked off Facebook, and they're a bit jumpy about.
I'm sure they are.
Yeah, human flesh.
God forbid. Anyway, Sam did this brilliant piece, and we did, and there was Oliver Milburn was one of the other actors. Katie's husband.
Yeah, lovely Oz.
Yeah, lovely Oz. And there was another guy called John McVicker, who was a convicted bank robber. Managed to escape imprisonment and was on the run for a long time. They made a film about his life with Roger Daltrey playing.
I remember, that was the 70s classic.
Good film, it was classic 70s film, McVicker. And there was a couple of others as well. Maybe Amanda was one of them. Anyway, it's a very interesting piece. And it was on at the Hayward Gallery. I was very proud of it. I was very proud to be part of that.
Nice.
But yes, I think it sort of harks back to when I did Caravaggio all those years ago. It kind of put me a bit one foot in the art world like that, Derek sort of using me as a young version of Caravaggio all those years ago. I had no idea who Caravaggio was until I went to his flat on Charing Cross Road.
Caravaggio's flat?
Yeah, Caravaggio's flat. He had a flat on Charing Cross Road, Caravaggio, yeah. Right next to Degas.
Yeah, that's
it
right.
was so crammed in the hallway. It was just sculptures everywhere. Ballerinas running up and down the hallway all the time.
Caravaggio must have been quite old by the time Degas moved in.
Oh, he's ancient he was. God, his hair was definitely white.
Yeah.
Murdered many people by that stage. And Derek Jarman lived there as well, so that was quite convenient because he was making a film about him, so it obviously made it easy. So when I saw Derek, I thought I'd be there for 10 minutes. I stayed there for like 2.5 hours. He was a fascinating man. Yeah, he was great. Sort of punk filmmaker. You ever seen any of his films, John? Jubilee and...
Which one's Jubilee? I mean, I was a film student, so I saw shitloads of films, but it doesn't necessarily mean I remember them perfectly.
I'm getting a phone call.
You paused. That's quite exciting.
I did. I was
still working over there? Everything working?
That was Gonda.
Oh. It didn't flash up Can
you just tell him I'll find him in 10 minutes?
do it. We do it with us here if you want. I mean, don't let us disturb you.
But then you'll know all my secret. The secret I've been trying to keep from you.
I
You'll know.
see. Yeah. Is it? It's Gibson. Yeah, I'll do it. I won't wear the straw hat.
Gibson is Van Gogh. He's hanging out with Julia Roberts, who's playing Gauguin. Oh, how's it going? I'm going to go and have a look. Can you hear Dahlia in the background? Oh, it's good. There it is. Look. It's interesting because having your portrait painted while you can see yourself as well is a strange phenomenon. I won't lie.
Yeah,
because it's something you eventually you stop becoming self-conscious and you just sort of like talking, and you're looking at the back of an easel and a canvas and talking to you. But like any FaceTime, you're always up there in the top right-hand corner.
Oh yeah.
Sort of talking to
yourself.
yourself.
They should take that away actually, because what it should be.
I wonder if there's a way of doing that.
It should be there for the first kind of 10 seconds of the call, so you can see if you've got, in my case, paint smeared across your face. But then it is distracting, and it's not in a helpful way. And so I think it means people are always only half concentrating on what they're doing. Maybe it's
especially a narcissist like me, John. I mean, I don't know why you're the larger part of the screen.
It's unbelievable. I'm amazed you kind of noticed that it's me on the other end of the phone.
I know, it takes an incredible amount of self-restraint and self-control.
Well, I'd like to know anyone who doesn't pay a little bit of attention to what they look like on these things. I suspect that most of us do.
Of course we do. But if I put you on the screen, I can see 4 versions of me. That's really good. That's really good.
Which one?
And I can hear Shiva. I want to see Shiva. I keep hearing her giggle and laugh.
No, you don't want to see me there.
She laughs at my
I'll
jokes.
FaceTime you later.
All right, okay. That's the deal. All right, that's good. Yeah, let's do that. Let's FaceTime later.
But yeah, it's good. Flip it. You're not saying yes.
Fine.
Don't do it.
Everyone in the audience, sorry, it's taking its time.
There's only 10 minutes left.
10 minutes left. Oh, fuck. So these
how are you getting on? It's going well though, isn't it? It's going
good, right? Yeah. I mean, it's a funny thing. I mean, obviously, I'm trying to keep it going quite quickly and not be too perfectionist about it. But the same, for the benefit of people watching, otherwise it can be a bit dull. But also, it's always tricky when you're doing it with a mate and you get involved in the conversation and then don't notice the painting's going a bit wrong. So,
but do you think, John? Do you think that so we started it out. This portrait started out as can we do this live? Can we stream it live? Let's try this thing. We're in isolation, and you were talking in the beginning about the story of the portrait, which is interesting because obviously you want, the painting is one of the first great storytelling tools, isn't it? I suppose you go and stand and look at a great painting for hours on end. And that you must, I suppose you're trying to encapsulate your idea of a personality or of a person at a moment in time. But if we spend enough time doing it, it's going to move beyond just being this thing that we endlessly comment on, this very sort of meta. We're just sort of like watching it.
So I just got rid of too much. I just got rid of too much of your chin.
Thanks, mate. Yeah. Thank you. That's what I started saying. Is it going to be true to life, or you got rid of too much of it? Or is it going to be a flattering portrait, or is it going to be true to life? That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah, actually, Mrs. Yo is quite good at telling me I'm going wrong on these things. She's always had a knack for that. She knows when I need to start something again.
You don't start again.
No, not this one.
No, it's not fair. That wouldn't be fair on anyone. Least of all those who are watching it.
I've got more that way, aren't I? I've got to be this way.
No, that's right. No, a bit more where you were actually. A bit more. Yeah, that's it. That's good. I just want to see a bit of your eyes there, so we can get those in a bit. Oh, nice. Yeah, very good. Yeah. Beautiful.
It doesn't help, does it?
I mean, that was lovely for all of us. Let's see now. eyes look bigger today, Dexter. God. Who's that snooker player who used to do that?
I'm not bored, John. I'm focused. I'm absolutely in the zone.
You've got 7 minutes left,
Yeah.
Dexter.
It's okay.
7 minutes from hell. Trying to look around what's on my desk. It's interesting to show you. There's nothing here. Nothing I'm proud of.
It's okay. We're interested in you. Oh, Jesus. Ah.
I was in Madrid recently. Oh, sorry, I've knocked over the camera. It's very good, this sketchbook. Sorry, I'm looking at a book. That's not good, is it? If Stuber keeps laughing, I'll keep doing stupid things.
Sorry, but you always make me laugh.
That's the trouble with having an audience. In the room, I mean, not you guys. Okay, right. Back to me.
Oh, sorry.
I need to tap on the screen now. Have you been doing like social FaceTiming and house partying and Zooming and things like that?
No, I don't know what Zoom is. Someone keeps talking to me about Zoom. I don't know what that is, but I'll try and figure that out. No, I've been talking to a few people in America by FaceTime. No, I haven't actually. I did in the beginning, did a bit more, but it seems to have the novelty seems to have worn off. So I just phone people like I normally do. Yeah. It's all right.
The trouble with FaceTime is that you end up sitting and looking at each other, and then everyone's. I think we haven't fully learnt the kind of etiquette and rhythm of speaking on it. It's because with phone calls you kind of. It's a bit more natural how and when to talk on it. And I don't know if it's just because we've been doing it longer, or if it's like fits in with the way. Yeah, it's only one thing to focus on basically.
Whereas look at your daughter right now. She's managing several at the same time.
Is she multitasking?
Is she FaceTiming and
what are you doing?
Instagramming and knitting? Making a cheese sandwich.
I haven't had lunch.
Oh. Excellent parenting. Might be because you got up at
She's
lunchtime.
making lunch.
No. She needs it.
Oh, look.
Dinner time.
Oh, there's you. In the corner there.
The camera.
Has that gone off again?
It's right. I think it's right.
Oh,
The camera might be playing about something else.
Yeah, it's come off the mind you.
It's a red button there, yes.
You've got 5 minutes
It's a
left.
red button on this.
Yeah.
Try pressing it. Yeah, seems making that, yeah. I think it's right. Okay. We're learning. Back to me again for a minute. Yeah,
you look like painting Wolverine. I'm going to phone you in 3 minutes, Dahlia. Can you?
Yeah, we're nearly done. Is it what?
Literally.
How far are we? Yes,
4 minutes left.
4 minutes left. Okay.
Great.
Come on, Dexter.
I mean,
give it
I
all
love
you got.
I'm doing my best posing. Look. I'm actually doing things so that I can watch myself and I'm entertaining myself. Because I'm watching myself live.
Yeah, you see that now? Is it? How distracting is it?
It's quite funny. I'm making myself laugh. Okay.
I don't think it's back on your website, by the way, but whatever.
Oh, really?
Only at the end.
You are. I can see everything. I can see the painting you're doing.
Okay.
I can see myself.
It's obviously not coming through
I
on
can
me.
see it all.
Actually, there's
It's all
only
up.
2 minutes left.
2 minutes left. Okay, well, I'm going to stop in a second then and say, well, it's okay. I think you can slightly see when someone's been moving around. It's kind of interesting because the picture becomes more animated, but also you then have to kind of reconcile that there's sometimes the eyes end up looking one way and the mouth another, but you can usually fix that later on. Look, guys, thank you for tuning in. We did a bit better today, I think.
John. I suppose there is so many distractions, and I've just got to. The next time, I will just not move. How about if I set myself that?
Well, we could just do a
mountain
screenshot. And if I know how to do that. Yeah, there you go.
Let me do my hair. Do my hair.
I'll put the screenshot on the website or something so people can have a go at things. Oh, no.
Someone's calling me.
Oh, it's you. Okay, right. Well, that's never mind about him. Okay. Dex, thank you, love.
Lorenzo. Hello, mate.
Are you up for doing this again on Saturday?
Yes. Yeah.
Let's do that.
Saturday.
Saturday. That's the date. Good for you guys.
In the evening.
In the evening, yeah. Is that all right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can stay sober until that this side of the day?
I'm sure I can manage it.
Okay. All right, love. Thank you.
Bye, Dexter.
Bye, Dex.
Love you guys.
Bye.
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 Okay.
And then,
Talk to you soon. Cheers, Johnny.
thanks, honey.
All good?
All good. You're lovely.
20 seconds left.
20 seconds left. Okay, great. Okay, guys, we'll do another session maybe to answer some questions before Saturday. But I think, we'll be back here Saturday evening if you want to come and tune in and see if I ever get this picture done, Dexter.
It's still on the website, so stop.
It's okay, well, it's all right. All right.
Save it on that though.
Oh, yes, you need to save that to the
Yeah.
live thing. We'll do that. And then we're going to say
Have you missed it or can you
the
I think you're still on.
that's all right. We can do it.
that I'm on.
I'm gonna carry on with Dexter on Saturday. I'm still learning how to do this, as you probably gathered, this whole sort of live streaming thing. But I think we're going to try and at some point do something where I can talk a bit more about materials for people who want to know about that. Talk a bit more about specific areas of a portrait, and I can focus on like how you do eyes or how you do a mouth, really how you do them. I can show you various tricks for speeding it up. But do fling questions over our way. We're here. We're not going anywhere. And I'd love to see what you're doing as well. So let me know. Cool. All right.